As a former competitor, I know how important it is to be stress-free and showcase your best package, from your physique to the final touches. Maximum Beauty is here for all your competition glam needs, hair and makeup to the last-minute touch-ups before the stage. Okay, we're recording.
Hey everybody, Camile Periat here with
Sarah Lyon.
The Bikini Show. This is a post-Olympia recap, and it's really exciting to do this. We've been looking forward to this. Sarah, you and I were like texting during the whole time, across the nation.
Yes.
While the whole Olympia was going. It was fun.
It was so much fun. And I know we really wish we were next to each other for that, because, man, I was watching that and looking like, who am I going to chat to about this? So next thing you know, we're texting, going back and forth. And sure enough, the pay-per-view ended up working out perfectly, because you even spotted some things that I was like, I don't know if you can see this because, you know, the pay-per-view. But then you were like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, it's on a 80-inch screen in my house.
So it better work.
Everything, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, fair enough. The Olympia was amazing. Sorry,
so how was the Olympia in Orlando? And I want to know how the changes were and your experience.
The Olympia was incredible, and it was even more incredible once we were there, being there and seeing at the fact that this had all been rearranged weeks prior. It was mind-blowing. And you know, the Olympia has been in Las Vegas for so many years, so this change up really threw me off. You know, I was adjusting flights, adjusting hotels, and then we got there to Orlando, and the convention center was set up through a walkway to go over from the hotel, which was super convenient. You know, we all know how much of a difference that makes, especially for the competitors themselves, but then even the audience. And from there, it was just walking into finals. The stage was amazing. It was even more extravagant than the Olympia in Las Vegas. And I know that you could see some of it from the pay-per-view. I don't know how big of a like wide frame that they made to show off this stage, but wow, the jumbotrons were all the way to the right side, all the way to the left side. There wasn't a bad seat in the house because of it. So they just did an incredible job. And you know, I mean, it was nice not smelling like cigarette smoke. That good Orleans hotel really gets you. And so with Orlando and just how it was all set up, it was super clean, super easy. So the atmosphere was incredible. And there were so many people there, which was great to see. I mean, I know it's a hard time and the pandemic, and you know, we need to be taking precautions, but yeah, for what it was, I was very surprised with how many people were there, for sure.
So, question, Chris and I were talking with this quite a bit. Do you know about like how many pay-per-views they sold? Because I'm hoping that they sold a lot, maybe even more than they would have with tickets, and that could have been like a massive income generator for them.
Yeah, I would say it did briefly cut out there. What did you? I'll edit this part. No, it's fine. I just want to make sure that you got your question in.
Oh, your whole answer then was cut out.
Oh, really?
Oh, so did you hear anything about like how many pay-per-view tickets they sold?
No, I don't know how many they sold, but I mean, gosh, I would hope a lot. I know it wouldn't compare to what they would make with tickets, but for the amount of people that were there, I'm curious, truly. I'm not like a big numbers kind of gal. So for me to tell you how many seats there were there compared to what the Olympia was last year, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't even comment on that. But I'm sure that they made up a good amount. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure they sold quite a bit. So let's dive into the bikini division.
Let's do it. Wow. Janet is the new queen.
I called it.
You called it. She called it. You called it before, like, all the girls were even on stage. I feel like you called it before the Olympia even happened.
I was calling Janet the week leading into Olympia. I was like, I just knew, I had a feeling she was going to win. You know why? She looked in all of the pictures, all of her photo shoots, her conditioning leading to the show was like amazing. And I knew she was training harder than I think she ever has. And she was bringing, she brought her best. She looked phenomenal. So
yeah, she did. Yeah, seriously, congratulations to Janet. I mean, you know, I've always been a fan of her physique, and I've always, though, the one thing that has always kind of frustrated me was seeing how round and full her glutes were, but such a lack of hamstrings. And this year, that was finally not the case. So I was thrilled in the sense that it was well deserved for her to win this year of all years. Absolutely.
Yeah. Without a doubt. So let's I think the elephant in the room, which is I think what caused such a wave after the finals were announced, was Issa. And you know, I was watching a pay-per-view, you were there in person, and even you and I were texting, we were like, you know, commenting on each competitor coming out. And then when Issa came out, you and I were both like, okay, wait a second. You know, she may be getting this again, because she, you know, she looked great. She did. It wasn't the same Issa that we have seen in the past, Olympia, not even the Olympia before that. I think when she placed like 4th place. But she definitely brought a bigger physique to the stage. And when the past couple weeks leading into it, I was almost thinking like she's looking borderline wellness. And I think this is the year that it's very clear that the judges had to do a recalibration of the bikini division. Otherwise, we're going to start looking too much like figure or wellness category. So
yes,
seeing Issa go from 1st to 6th place, I think if anything, the reaction it created with people was more of an emotional reaction. It's hard to see a champion go from 1st place to not even the top 5. Like I even hurt for her. Like the next morning I was still just like, I mean, I just feel
I
for her. But you have to, when you look at it all and the top 5, you know, it's more like an emotional reaction that we felt. And I think a lot of people felt that as well at the, you know, when it first was announced.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, to be honest with you, I think for people that were there in the audience and those watching the pay-per-view, of course, with that being live, I think, you know, being honest here, that I was very surprised that Issa did not even get a look in the middle.
That was my biggest upset. And I'm going to be completely honest, just like you are. I think she didn't even get called or compared. And
no, she did not move.
She didn't move. And I personally feel even if she was meant to be in that 6th place position, at least compare the champion, at least bring her in and compare her. And so
that we, the audience, can also see. I'm so sorry, it definitely cut out there, and that's why I talked over you. What did you just say?
I don't remember. But we're talking
back.
about
No, but that is 100% something that stood out to me, and that I think was frustrating for me watching, because it also would have perhaps answered some questions for people as to why she placed in 6th if they were to just give her the look, because the entire time she was being compared, I would truthfully have to go back and confirm which of the rest of the top 5 she was next to that entire time. But she was only being compared to them in all reality. because we weren't able to see her next to Angelica. We weren't able to see her next to Janet. And seeing her next to Janet, I think would have shown and showcased the differential between the package that Issa brought with the more muscularity versus Janet and what they ended up going with for the champion of the division.
Yeah, I think that was probably the biggest upset of the entire night, was just seeing Issa, the champion, just never even brought in or compared. And it was, I think if they had brought her in, then you're right, it would have answered a lot of questions and people would have been like, okay, because she's been the ideal for the past year that everyone's been following, and she's been the example. She's made complete changes amongst the division as well. I mean, now for the past year, everyone's just like, I got to build up those lats. Everyone's trying to do these crazy lat spreads, you know. And I totally understand why they went with Janet and the look of the rest of the top five. And I'm happy with the division, the judges kind of making that call, doing a reset. Otherwise, we're going to get too big. And to be completely honest, that's one of the reasons why I've decided this year, like, you know what, I'm happy with my frame and structure. I don't want to constantly struggle to like put on all this additional muscle when it's, in the end of the day, it's not something that I personally want to live with. So,
and it's put it on with the potential to possibly have to take it off, right?
Yeah,
you know, it's right. That's how this division works. It works. It's ever changing, you know, and that's the beauty of it. But that's also a growing pain with it as well. So you have to be considerate of that. And I think that, like you said in the beginning, you know, setting that clear separation of wellness and bikini, that's what they wanted to achieve with this Olympia, and they definitely made that clear. I mean, even with where they put Angelica, because I thought that next to what Angelica brought to the Arnold, I think that, in my opinion, that was still her best package ever. I think this would be runner up to her best package ever, to what she brought to the Arnold. And, you know, she still plays where she plays. So that's also something to, you know, that is playing into that separation.
Yeah. And when you look at the top five, Janet, Jennifer Dory, Atila, and Laura Lee, all four of those have very similar bodies. Like they're all pretty tall. They had very similar structures, and actually of that top five, Angelica was one that maybe was didn't have the same type of overall look and structure lined up together.
Totally agree. And it shook some people. I think a lot of people were shocked with how this all panned out for this Olympia, and maybe not just in the bikini division, in all divisions.
There was a little bit of heartache in each division. I think actually I yelled at the TV for every division except for 212.
Yeah, wow. And even that, crazy. Sean has had such a, well, that's a whole other story, but yeah.
Let's go down one each one. So we both agreed Janet looked amazing. I've actually given like some best of, and Janet is also, I've marked as, I thought there's two girls I thought that had done most improved, and Janet was definitely the top four most improved and probably best overall look. Yeah. Jennifer Dory came in second. She looked phenomenal. You and I were talking about that, that we had wished that this is such small things.
Such small things. Right. And that's what I was just going to say. I'm like, but we have to address that is what those things all play into it at this level, especially at the Olympia.
But you and I both agreed that her lipstick might have been a little bit too nude and matted.
Yeah.
I mean, it's minute, but it does make a difference. Now, I also think that Jennifer Dory could have actually beaten Janet if she was a tad, like a smidge more conditioned in the midsection. I think she was maybe a tad more conditioned at the Tampa Pro that she had won than she was at the Olympia. I could be completely wrong. James could be watching this being like, Camille, you don't know what you're talking about.
It could be. I totally see what you said though. Like as far as that, it was just a hair tighter. It could have been maybe posing adjustment was made. You know, even we know that sometimes you shift just your placement of your arms or your chest or your hips, and that totally changes that contour. So that could have been it. But I just have to say that seeing Jennifer and having seen Jennifer's journey since becoming pro rather closely, in the sense that I've been at a lot of the shows she's competed at, I am just so happy for her, because it's so, like, she has worked her ass off, man. And of course, I know all the ladies do. I'm not questioning that. But wow, she really brought it, and she has just been so like blinders on, whatever I have to do, I'm going to do it. And we've seen her live this out. You know, we talked to her earlier in the pandemic when everything was under quarantine. We talked to her after her Tampa Pro win, and then seeing it all kind of come full circle for her. I know it's not the crown, but it's still second place in the world. It's just great. So I just had to say that. I love you so much, Jennifer.
Me too.
Yeah.
The about that also is that I don't think really many people expected her to place that well. I think most people, I knew Jen was going to be in that group in the first call out without a doubt. I honestly thought Jennifer Dory was going to be placing 5th or 6th with the girls that were there. You know, that was assuming that Issa was going to be at least in the top 3, which was, you know, I thought she was going to be second. Janet.
Yeah.
So Jennifer Dory, congratulations. We're very happy for you and your coach, James. 3rd place, Attila. Yeah. I said she was going to be top 3 when we interviewed her. Like,
you did.
No.
You did say that. I remember that too. And I was like, I don't know, we'll see. Yeah, she really brought it. She was lights out compared to what she had even brought to New York, which won her the spot at the Olympia. Night and day difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And she was more balanced this year compared to last year's Olympia. I think last year's Olympia, I remember her being maybe a little bit more on the muscular side. And she still had that, but it was just a little bit more balanced. And she looked really athletic this Olympia. She looked just very athletic.
She did.
She striking. She looks like she'd be like a E-News like talk show host. You know?
I totally agree. I can totally see that for her too. That's so funny. Yeah, she really did bring it. And of course her, like you said, she really captivated the audience. So there's not much to critique with her. I look forward to seeing as she continues to progress, because it seems as if her journey is still so new. So she's where, you know, Jennifer and Laura Lee were, I would say, in 2018, early 2019 kind of a situation. So it'll be interesting to see how she progresses over the next couple of years. We know she'll be a familiar face in that top 5 for a little bit, as long as she keeps bringing it.
She's not going to be leaving anytime soon. 4th place, Angelica Tashera. I thought she brought one of her best physiques to date.
And her posing
was amazing. Her and Issa both were just like, I fucking want this.
Yeah, I think that they were the 2, truthfully, that really brought it with posing. Honestly, other than that, no one really like stood out to me, you know, really like grabbed me besides those 2. And of course, I mean,
they're the champions.
That's fitting, right? That's fitting. So they show how they work it and they do it. Janet posed how Janet always
Angelica,
poses.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
they were sassy.
They were sassy. They were confident, and but Angelica, I want to take a second to talk about Angelica, because I thought there's a chance that I was like, man, she could actually take back her title with this, because she was so. Her backside, I thought out of the top 5, actually, to be completely honest, Angelica had like, maybe it was from the pay-per-view I was watching, but she looked tight. Her glutes looked incredible. Her midsection looked great. Like, I thought she was, she nailed it. I will say, and actually James with Team Atlas did an awesome bikini rundown, breaking down everything. And one thing he pointed out, I completely agreed with, was maybe a tad bit of abdominal distension in her lower abdominals. And compared to the other girls, she just made look a little bit wider. All the other 4 had just tiny waists.
Yeah.
That's maybe my only comment I had for her.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And I actually think that that is something that Angelica has always had to very consciously control, and control more so of than the other girls. I think that's where one of the parts that she gets beat. You know, I remember even when it was Issa and her at the Arnold this past year, and it was so close. They both brought such great packages. And I remember I had asked one of the judges, and it came back to, yes, but look at Issa's ratios into her waist. You know, it's just, you can't beat that. And it makes sense. And seeing how Janet's waist looked, how Jennifer's waist looked, how Attila's waist looked, and then Angelica's, you can see the differentials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. So then Laura Lee, she came in 5th place. And I honestly, leading into the show, I thought Laura Lee was going to be 3rd, because her and Janet have such similar physiques. They're both very tall, really long muscle bellies. And Laura Lee was looking, I almost felt like she was looking like more conditioned weeks leading into the show. And maybe it was, you know, she looked just a little bit soft, or maybe even flat, or possibly slightly spilled over when she came out for prejudging. And it's not that she wasn't lean enough. I think it could be even just as simple as like what is happening leading up to that point. Maybe those last couple meals were, and then that being backstage. I don't know if the original lineup for the judging was supposed to have bikini 3rd. I thought it was supposed to be 2nd, and that little change can make a big difference. But I think if Laura Lee came in just a tad more, like with a little bit more pop in her midsection and her hamstrings and her shoulders, she could have been like way up there with the top.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. Just, I don't want to say that I was disappointed with what Laura Lee brought, but I would say that like you said, I was anticipating her to be placed higher than she was. And 2, I was expecting a little bit of a different package based off of the posts that we have been seeing. So disappointing is not the correct word, so please forgive me, everyone, for saying that. It is the best word I can come up with right now. But she did, of course, still look great. I would have liked to see her tan a little bit darker, and that could have been the lighting at prejudging compared to what I saw the previous night at finals. But there were quite a few of the girls that I would have thought should have brought a deeper tan than they did.
I thought some of them, I'm like, did they just forget to tan?
Yeah, I was very surprised.
There was some that were so light, and the lighting with the prejudging also seemed like there was a lot of shadows and downcasts.
It was more of like a true auditorium setup, in the sense of the orchestra layout. So the overcast of the drapes from the top, I think, always plays into it. I know the lights are underneath that. I understand that. But for some reason, it casts some sort of a shadow, in my opinion. And so, yeah, I thought everyone got away with a little bit of a lighter tan because everyone was a little bit lighter. You know what I mean? If there were more girls that had darker, deeper tans, like Janet's tan, it would have stood out a lot more, I think. But almost everyone was like a shade lighter than I particularly would like to see everyone on stage at.
Yeah, it was pretty obvious, but even with looking at all the pictures, but Laura Lee looked beautiful. I love her makeup looked great. Her hair, her posing.
What do you think of her deeper blue suit?
I think honestly, I think I liked her older blue suit a little bit better. I thought it popped a little bit more.
Yeah, I think this one, even though there's a good contrast between her skin tone and the suit, I think maybe it's just too deep with her hair. I don't know. But yeah, I think she stood out more in her previous suit.
Yeah. All right, I lost you for a second there.
It's okay.
Sixth place, Issa. We've kind of talked about Issa already. A couple things. I'm going to revert back to James with Team Atlas's breakdown from his Olympia. I'm going to go back to this because he pointed out some things that were very like spot on. And one of the things that he had mentioned was how she wears her suit. And her suit on top, it goes down like almost like a figure. And that's one thing that she's actually done pretty consistently throughout her competing, maybe the last year especially, but she wears it underneath her lats where it starts
do see that
figure-like. And with a physique like Issa's that's pushing that boundary already.
She should have worn it higher this year.
Size. That was one thing that was interesting that he had pointed out. I don't think she was as tight. She was not as tight as she was for the Arnolds or for the last year's Olympia. She was definitely softer. Her midsection was really conditioned, but she's always going to have a conditioned midsection. But I will say that she came out and her posing, her new routine was incredible.
Incredible. And I know that was a last minute adjustment. And I know that she was nervous about that. Yeah. That was a last minute, like peak week kind of adjustment to my understanding. And she was practicing that routine like day and night to make sure that she nailed it.
It was incredible. It
really was.
No one can ever emulate that. Like it was just, she did some really cool stuff that was different. And she looked so confident. And she's incredible. She has one.
Sorry, don't mind my grandfather clock talking over you.
I didn't hear it.
Okay. Home at mom's. Go on.
But Issa has one of those. She has like a freakish physique, and I've had judges. I've heard judges in the past say not about her or anyone in particular, but just that sometimes the best physique doesn't always win. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it might be, it's going right outside of the criteria, but Issa has one of those physiques that you look at it, her ratios, the dimensions, everything about it, you're just like, whoa.
Yeah.
But one thing that is really important for people to realize is that part of the reason why, bikini is kind of like an entry level division. It's a division that is supposed to be for women who are like, that looks amazing. I want to try this. I want to get
achievable
in shape and like maybe do a show like that. Achievable. It's an achievable physique. It's beach body. It's like a fitness magazine. And so when there's physiques that are pushing that boundary in that envelope, it's also setting a message for the incoming competitors, that the NPC, and you have to set these guidelines and ground rules. Otherwise, the division's going to completely take off to a different area that is hard to control. And it's also comes down to health and safety too, because one person's genetics is very, very, very hard to achieve for the mass. And it can, so there's a lot of reasons why this I think happened, and it's important that it does. It hurts. Champion go down like that, and she'll come back, she will, but that's just my little 2 cents there.
No, I completely agree with that. And yes, that is something too that I look forward to watching is seeing how this now trend, if you will, or this placement of everybody continues to morph the bikini division into what it's going to be in 2021. You know, how do these first pro shows start out as that are going to be happening, hopefully, in, you know, the spring here, and what do those champions look like? The part that is key and that they've been doing such a great job at, I think, especially over the course of like the last 5 years, is truly following how they're choosing the champion. You know, they're playing that out into the other champions across the shows. I think we've seen that very consistently now. And I know that was something that when the bikini division was on the newer end of things, a lot of people were frustrated with. But they've definitely heard what people were saying and have adjusted and adapted to that. So, you know, being when the Arnold happens, that will be interesting to then see which of these girls that were in the top 5 go and compete at the Arnold, and top 10 really, and then how that placing works. And then next year's Olympia, which I don't know if that's in September, December now next year.
I know there were Dan Solomon was saying some interesting things about that, but let's talk about that after. Let's get going down the line.
Yeah, let's keep going down the line.
So we got 7th place, Ashley Kotwalser, another bikini Olympian, three times, no stranger to our show as well.
Yeah.
What did you think about Ashley?
I think Ashley brought it, as Ashley always does. She always brings a great physique. I think that her physique has stayed Ashley Kotwalser's physique. She has not done as much changing, if you will, for the division as other competitors have, in my opinion. And I think that has to do with her genetics overall, but I also think that just has to do with how her body is built and her athletics playing into her adult figure. And she's just on the more muscular side of bikini. And I think that if you put her and Janet next to each other, Janet looks more streamlined. I'm sorry?
Victoria's Secret?
Yes, Victoria's Secret top model kind of a look, where Ashley has more of like, I'm an athlete. I look like an athlete. I train like an athlete. I eat like an athlete. And of course, and Ashley knows this, I've said it so many times on the show, I would just like to see her posing be even more. It's getting better and better each time, but I would like to see her maybe really change up her routine from what she's used to, because I feel that we have been seeing the same routine from Ashley now since she made her comeback. Well, maybe not since she made her comeback, but probably since 2019. I could say from the Mile High Pro, seeing her there. So
yeah,
and I'm not a fan of the red.
I was gonna say I did not like the red suit. It worked. It was cool at that one show she did. I forgot what show it was.
That? Right.
But I agree. The red did not like do much for me. I think her posing needs to greatly improve, especially with the caliber of everyone else's posing and what we see from Angelica and Issa. It's like that's
excuse me.
A pretty big weakness. And I think that this is my own personal opinion, and Ashley, if you're watching this, no offense. But I feel like she was so focused when she was competing in all of the regional shows a couple months ago, and she was bringing I thought she brought a better package then also, and I almost feel like she got kind of burnt out and just didn't care as much going into the Olympia. And I feel like I know she was maybe trying to like soften up her abs a little bit, but I personally feel like if you win whatever you win with, you know, whatever you win with, you should bring at least that to Olympia. And I feel like she brought something that was not as strong of a physique as she did a couple months ago when we saw her winning. My own personal opinion.
No, I mean, I could definitely see that, and I can agree with that, and I think what I would say in, you know, as another opinion, perhaps it wasn't that, she didn't care as much or anything like that going to the Olympia. Yeah, and that's why I figured that you didn't mean it in that sense. I think maybe her body began to kind of tap out. I mean, she has been going for a while, and it happens. I mean, at the end of the day, bodybuilding is an extreme sport,
Yeah.
and it takes a toll on our physique. So, if you look at back when she did her first show earlier this year, to now here all the way in December, you're talking the course of 4 or 5 months of doing shows not too far apart. So I would say that probably played into it for sure.
Absolutely. And I think that's kind of what I was leaning more towards. Not, I mean,
And I figured.
and but I think along with when you, and Ashley was not the only one that I thought looked maybe their body felt a little burnout or tired. There was a couple other competitors that I noticed that had already been qualified way long into the season, but were kind of in prep and competing, and they looked very tired on stage, and so I think it's important for competitors to, if it's my own personal opinion, but if you're qualified for the Olympia, and your body has a tendency to do that, you got to be careful. You got to be careful with it. And also your mindset too, because it is draining, and it can be hard, and that can play off. But I think I like seeing champions rewarded and returning champions. You're rooting for them. So I think a lot of us would love to see Ashley place better, but I think those aspects, the posing, the other factor may have contributed to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I completely agree with you. Completely agree.
Okay, so number 7. Eighth place. Ashlyn Brown.
Yes. Wow, she has been killing it. She's been killing it. And man, she looked great. She really did. I would say she definitely didn't look burnt out. She brought the same incredible package that she has been bringing tight. Man, I would say that she's probably one of the tightest bikini pros that was in that lineup. And she has incredible ratios. I think what plays against her is because she's so tight, she can look hard next to the wrong girl. And at the end of the day, it's who you end up standing next to too. We all look great on our own, but then when you put us next to someone, what shows as a weakness and a strength, versus the opposite. So I think that maybe is what she'll continue to work on in the future.
And I loved her makeup and hair this show. I really liked she had like some loose waves that looked really pretty on her. And I think with Ashlyn, I mean, she's like I think she's like, I was looking at everyone's butts today from the whole lineup. So I was like getting all my like best ofs. And I think she has probably some of the best glutes up there. Yeah. And I sound like Lloyd from Dumb and Dumber.
Why?
That part in Dumb and Dumber when he's like, look at the glutes on.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that. Oh yeah, that's hilarious.
But she's so dialed in that honestly, I think the only thing that's hurting her is something that she can't eat her height. And she does have a very muscular midsection, so it makes her look a little bit wider. Now it's flat as heck, but it's just wider. So that is something that is just part of her genetics that she probably can't do much about. But I mean, she is consistent to the T. So congratulations, Ashlyn. You looked amazing.
Right.
Let's go to number 9th place, Jasmine Gonzalez.
Wow. I have seen her since she was on the national stage, when her legs were always a little bit bigger than they needed to be. They should have been, if you will, for the bikini division. And she has just really stuck with it and brought those legs down. Her and Ryan have done a great job of doing that. And she brought a great package. I think that she maybe could have been just a hair tighter in that tie-in area. But other than that, I would say that this is one of the best packages that we've seen of her too.
Yeah, she looked great. You know, Jasmine, you just mentioned her leg size, and that was one thing that I was thinking about earlier today as well. You know, she's one of the bikini pros that even judges were saying, like, you should try out the wellness division.
Yeah.
Just like, I'm in bikini.
Right.
She really has. So I was excited for her. And I want to also point out, we're going to go into Brina Martinez as 10th place, but did you realize that the competitors that were 7th, 8th, and 9th, or 8th, 9th, and 10th were all qualified on points?
No, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, so
interesting.
Ashlyn, Brina, Jasmine, and Maya was another one. There was one more that qualified on points, but they all qualified on points. So that was like pretty phenomenal.
Absolutely.
Yeah, leading us to Brina Martinez. Brina, if you're watching this, Brina looked amazing. This is the best I've ever seen Brina look. And I've always been a massive fan of Brina's. I've been competing with her for a long time. Actually, I gave her first NPC win award. Like,
shut up.
But Brina's just she looked so great. She was like tight and full in all the right places. And her posing, I really liked her posing routine this time. I know she's always really confident with her posing, but this time she just kind of like kept it a little bit more basic, but she still had the right amount of confidence and sass. And I think she did one thing that had been bugging me for a while with her front pose, is she finally straightened out her leg. She would kind of bend her knee a little bit the past few shows, and she straight, and it looks so much better.
It does.
But she looked great. I liked her hair. I liked her makeup. She looked great. I'm on the fence about the yellow.
I love her in it.
Okay. Well,
I love her in it. I think it's great because I think it's different. And now, like, I totally associate yellow with her already. And the last person that I ever associated a yellow suit with was India Paulino. So I think that it's great to see. And I like that the judges like it. That's what I like. Because, you know, at the end of the day, everyone's got the same suit color. You know, there might be a little different stone on it here, a little different pattern, but like, everyone's got the blues and the purples and the greens, and you know, it's fun to be different and to stand out in that differential. So I love that she can pull it off and that they're cool with it, because usually it doesn't work out that way. And not everyone can wear yellow. Let's just throw that one out there. Please be very careful if you're thinking about wearing yellow. Please feel free to message us. We'll let you know what we think.
But Brina looked amazing. When I saw her come out, I was just like, Chris and I looked at each other and we was like, she could be in this top 5. Like, she looked amazing. So Brina also was my second person to get most improved out of the whole lineup. So good job, Brina. Okay. 11th place. Now, I was going to say there was 2 upsets that I had this bikini division. Okay. And number 1 was seeing how Issa placed. Number 2 was Jennifer Ronzini. Jennifer Ronzini placed 11th place, and Jen Ronzini. I thought Jen Ronzini looked amazing. I thought she looked incredible. She was like tight. Her glutes looked amazing. I thought the whole package was incredible. And I was really surprised to see her not even make that top 10. Not because she's usually in the top 10, but because I thought this was the best that she has looked on the Olympia stage since maybe when she placed second, like 3 or 4 years ago. But I almost feel like she was on the side of the call out.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be that's a danger zone. If you're on that, if you're flanked on the far side,
Mm-hmm.
it can stuck there for like a little bit. It's like, to me, it's like danger. And I think that's kind of what happened to Jen, is that she was kind of just stuck on the outside and could never get judges to properly see her. But yeah, that was a massive disappointment to me because I thought she looked incredible.
I totally agree with you. I was very shocked even just with how the call outs went, and shocked more in the sense of, I don't know how to word that properly. I just was expecting some other familiar faces to be looked at least, you know, and to be compared a little bit more, maybe even if they dismissed certain girls and then brought out these other girls to look at them in that manner. I thought we would have seen a little bit more of that versus how the call outs actually ended up playing out, which obviously ended up playing out in the placings that we saw. But Jen did bring a great package. I think that begins to go towards just how the division is evolving. I mean, if we look at it, you know, it's slowly kind of been going towards this, in my opinion, as far as looking on the leaner side, not as muscular. But I think that there's gonna have to be change. Like, girls are gonna have to make changes to stay consistently in that top 5 moving forward now.
Yeah, I thought when I was looking at Angelica and Jen Ronziti, I thought they were like almost
Comparable.
identical. Like they
comparable.
Yeah, like so comparable. And then if you take it to another person who's in the top 10, Jen Ronziti looked very comparable to Ashlyn Brown as well. So to kind of surprise about that placing. Now, would I have bumped somebody else out? Possibly, but I just thought Jen Ronziti got my biggest overlook award. Sorry, Jen.
Biggest what?
Overlook.
Biggest overlook award. Okay. I could see that. Yeah. You know, what's something that I have always noticed with Jen, and I think that some shows they nail it and some shows they have a harder time with it. And it is a harder thing to get down, but I think too, like Angelica, I think she deals with a little bit of that lower belly protruding.
She does. I've definitely seen that. This time I feel like she did nail it. I know last year's Olympia that was but she's really good at tightening it up. So when she gets on stage, it's like flat.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing
Wait, Camille.
Changed last. Yeah.
Sorry, hold on. Let me pause it and move because somehow my internet is changing. So hold on one second.
Okay, so the one thing I noted that Jen did last show she won. Did she win the Chicago? What show did she win?
No, what show was that? We interviewed her.
Oh, maybe the Shreveport or something.
Shreveport, that's what it was. The Shreveport Classic. Okay. Yes.
So she looked amazing there. And one thing that she did with her posing, I think it was there, or the Wings of Strength. I think it actually was the Wings of Strength that she did leading up to the Olympia, was that Jen has a tendency to kind of lean forward a little bit too much in her front pose.
Mm-hmm.
She like really kind of leans forward into her front pose. And at the last show she did, she was standing up straight,
mm-hmm.
more straight, and she just looked so much more balanced. And I thought she looked awesome with that pose. And I was hoping she would do that again, because I think if she would have done that, it would have showed her angles a little bit better, and almost in the top 5, all of those girls, they're just standing there. Like they're just standing there like a statue, and that really shines. And Jen Renzini does not have to over pose anything to make anything pop out. She has those round glutes. She has those round shoulders. So I think she would have positioned herself and stood up more straight and just let her arm kind of hang down, I think she could have made her present herself a little bit better.
I completely agree. And I think that's something that we've seen quite a bit of, and they're playing with that a little bit. And I think it could be to breaking an old habit as well, you know?
It is. And then on Olympia's stage,
and that's
and
always
you're just
hard.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go to 12th place. That was Monica Ellis.
Monica brought a great package. I would say that she definitely looked the best she has from the back pose. And we know that she made a coaching change here within this last year.
She had a year off. And she had a year off.
Yes. And a well-rested body always does better than a fatigued body. But she really did a great job. I think that her posing was great as well. I did like the adjustments that were made to her posing. And I think all in all, James did a great job with her. I think I'd like to see her in a different color suit than the red. I don't know what it was. And honestly, now that I've made that comment about a couple red suits, I wonder, sometimes it has to do with like how the background looks, how the stage lighting is. Sometimes red just doesn't look good on a certain stage, you know? So maybe that's why I wasn't a fan, because I wasn't really a fan of anyone in red suits.
Yeah, red suits can be tricky, but Monica's suit, that was the one thing that I noticed right when she walked out, was that the old suits that she wore, I thought were a lot flattering. And also the cut, and they just the sparkle. I think she used to use T. Marie suits, and it's, you know, that was one thing that stood out to me, was just that the suit didn't have that like pop factor like her old suits did. But Monica looked phenomenal. Her front pose is like lights out to what it used to be. So Monica, amazing job. She improved her placing, and I know that was her goal. So she looked gorgeous. 13th place.
Yeah, I actually don't know from here.
Okay. I think the 13th place actually was, I think she was from Korea? There was some women from,
I'm pulling it up as first.
Asia that looked incredible. 13.
Yeah, there really
Natalia,
was. It was great.
Looked awesome. She looked absolutely awesome. Yeah, like the ratios on her were incredible, and she was just this really pretty, cute, bubbly girl. Backside, I noticed, was maybe not as tight as the girls ahead of her. 14th place, Daraja Hill. So I have Daraja down for one of my awards also. I think Daraja has had the best legs and best backside. Now, I know Daraja can come in a little bit too conditioned in the hamstrings. I personally like that. Maybe it's because I do too. But I think the overall shape of her legs is like, they're very aesthetically pleasing. She has really nice calves, nice structure to the rest of her legs. She has tight glutes. I thought she looked incredible. Where she lacked a little bit was conditioning in the core. I think she had been a little bit more conditioned in the core. Why are you laughing?
Because my mom just crawled behind the kitchen counter and grabbed her water bottle that just disappeared. If anyone else noticed that, that's hilarious. I'm so sorry. I couldn't help myself. Go ahead.
I didn't even notice.
Now when you watch it, you definitely will. Okay, go ahead.
That's good. It adds like,
yeah, a little humor. Something to this hour-long recording. God, I can't talk. No, Darasha totally has. That's like a great way of putting it too. It's very aesthetically pleasing from the back. She has a perfect circumference to her legs, but still very defined.
Yeah, just the whole shape of her legs. Yeah. And but her midsection I think could have been a little bit tighter. And I know that is I've spoken to Daraja in the past. Maybe it was on our show, and maybe it was also at the Arnold's. But she, you know, she has very conditioned legs naturally. That in order to get, you know, her midsection is one of the last ones to come in. And so in order for someone like that to keep your legs full and to, you know, prevent striations or things like that in your legs, you need to fill out more, and that can sometimes compromise the midline and, you know, so, but I thought Daraja's look was awesome. So
yeah, she did. I mean, yeah, head to toe, very polished, very, very polished.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, in 15th, Sarah Choi, how we were just speaking of quite a few of the foreigners coming in and just really rocking the house. Sarah brought a great package. I saw some of her posts before she obviously competed at the Olympia, and I was already stunned then with like, wow, she's really bringing it. And I was very, very, very impressed with what she brought to the stage, and it was great to see her slide it into that 15th spot.
Yeah, yeah.
A little softer package than I would say most, but the softer worked well for her. And she did have a little bit of a different suit color too, so that was really cool to see. It had more of a teal-y green, sea green, if you will, to it. And I really liked that.
Yeah, she looked amazing. So overall, it was an awesome bikini lineup. I'm gonna this though.
We pros.
Some people might
What'd you
get
say?
mad at it, but I've heard a lot of people say it's been the most. It was. Oh, sorry.
I said it
some
pros.
people might
what
get
did you say?
Some people might get upset about this, but I've heard a lot of people say that it was the most competitive bikini lineup, but I'm going to disagree with that. And even though everybody looked really, really good, I personally felt like last year's Olympia was the most competitive because there was, I think, only 25 bikini pros that had to fight year round. Everybody that went there had at least like 3 wins under their belt. And there was also some names that were not there this year, like Marina, Marcia, Concalves. Like there was some names that we normally see in that top 10 that weren't there. But overall, I'm not trying to take away anything from the lineup, but
no,
I'm just saying
I totally,
it was maybe not the most competitive.
And I totally agree with you, Camille. But I would say that my reasoning is going to be a little different. And I would say it's because of, yes, certain people weren't there, like you said, just kind of different qualifying system. But I think that there were a lot of the top names, if you will, going into it just weren't at their best. And so in that sense of things, I don't think it was as competitive as it could have been if they all had brought, you know, what was being posted a couple of weeks ago. But that's also another friendly reminder, is to don't believe everything you see on the internet, and know that angles are angles and people post things. And I'm not saying that certain girls didn't look certain ways, but there's a lot happens within that last like final 10 days, and that can make or break you, especially dependent upon your coach. And if your coach, you know, likes to manipulate and try different things, or if you feel that you have to do those things, you know, sometimes you try to be 5% better and end up 10% worse. And I think that happened with a fair share of people on the Olympia stage this past weekend.
Absolutely. Beatrice, or not Beatrice.
Yes.
Yes. I want to call her by
maybe her not
name, but
okay, maybe I'm thinking of a different person. Okay, what?
No. We're thinking of the right one. She's from Portugal.
Yes. Who we had on our show. Yes.
Right. She placed last year. She placed. I think she placed right behind me last year.
Yeah, and she took like
12th.
What'd she take at the Arnold? She took like,
I think she got like 8th at the Arnold's.
Yeah, I was gonna say 7th or 8th.
And this year she didn't even place in the top 15. And so that's another possibility of the COVID traveling. It also looked like she was maybe changing a lot of things with her prep, but it looks like she got really small.
I was gonna say, I think that I was anticipating a lot more growth from her, and it almost looked like it was the opposite. So that was I was confused, to be honest with you. And I wasn't a big fan of how she had her hair either. I remember thinking that as well, being there.
I thought her hair and makeup looked stunning.
Okay, so then maybe I'm thinking of a different show. So
she's a stunning girl.
Oh, she's beautiful, of course. Yes.
But yeah, there was some surprises. I completely agree with it. Expecting some people to do better and they didn't, but it's been a challenging year, and the fact that they all got there is incredible. I want to go over I just want to summarize my best of awards.
Yes.
Okay, so I had best poser as Issa, best backside I put down Daraja Hill, best front side I put down Lexus Redmond. She is a new pro. She had the really curly hair. You and I were texting, and I said, wow.
Oh, yeah.
She just has a tiny little waist. She has amazing ratio. So I put Lexus and Monica Ellis down for best front pose. Biggest overlook, like I said, I thought it was Jen Ronziti. Most improved, Brina Martinez, Janet Leug, and best suits, I thought, were Hannah Ranfranz and Janet Leug.
I wonder if they're from the same suit maker. I had to think about that. I don't know if CJ does Hannah's suit.
They are.
Oh, they are? Okay.
No, she does. Yeah. They're CJ.
That makes sense then.
They just stand out. They're just super sparkly, and they stand out.
Yeah, so the way that she does the stoning is like impeccable with the perfect outline out on the rim of everything.
And fit.
Yeah, like a glove. Like a glove.
I think that kind of sums up the Olympia. So should we just talk briefly about where we see the division heading for the year? Because I think it sent a lot of people were just like, now what do we do?
Yeah, I think so too. I feel like we probably both have already gotten so many questions about it. And what do you think, Camille?
Well, I think it is toning it down a little bit. It's bringing a athletic, toned down version of what we have been seeing. Not so much just like glutes, shoulders, lats. It is that, but it's about having just a streamlined, athletic, slender body. That's what it's looking like.
It makes me think that we're going back towards when Courtney King was crowned, back in 2016. We're going back to a little bit of a leaner look, a little more petite, not super hard. Just, I think the best word to describe it is like what we said earlier in the beginning of the episode. It's achievable, and I think that's what we're going back to. So I think if you're going to go make the change to wellness, make the change to wellness, and if not, if you're going to stay bikini and you're one of those girls that needs to bring your legs down a little bit, get started on it, because I think that's how 2021 is going to go. Looking at the standard, I think a great page to follow and look at as well is Fit Pro Becky on Instagram. That's Becky Clausen. She's one of the head IFBB Pro judges, and she Pro League judges, excuse me. She does a great breakdown of nearly every division for the females and explains it in detail. And I know that she also will answer questions and comments on her post too. So those are always great to reference if you are looking for, more direction with things.
Absolutely. Yeah, she's very passionate about it, and she spends a lot of time breaking it down. But I think it's exciting. I think it's good for the sport. I think it's good for the division. I think it's healthy, and I think it's that's what is so much fun about competing, is that it is always changing. And so for the girls who have been, getting themselves to that point of too much size,
Mm-hmm.
maybe, or too muscular, cut back a little, change your training style a little bit and adjust.
Yep. Totally agree.
Well, I think that kind of sums it up.
I agree. I'm dodging the sun here. I'm sorry. So we are going to wrap this up here.
And this episode we're not taking a lot of time to edit. There's actually no editing.
Yeah, there's no editing, guys. Yeah, this is it. This is how it goes. This is what happens here. So we are doing this here, obviously, Christmas week. So for all of you celebrating Christmas, we wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, of course, to everybody, and Happy Holidays all over the world.
Yeah, Sarah, enjoy the family.
You too, Camille. And we'll be back.
We will be back.
We will be back.
Lag.
Oh, it totally cut out. What did you say?
I just said bye.
No, before that.
Oh, we'll be back. Oh, we won't lag.
Okay. How ironic that we just lagged with that. Okay, great. It's been real, guys. We hope you enjoyed our Olympia wrap up. Make sure you like, subscribe. Let us know what you guys want to see. We know we're going into a little bit of a downtime here, but we got you guys covered. We'll keep you entertained and keep you up to date with everything happening in the Bikini Division. Sarah,
you got to join quarantine like we are in quarantine. We can do some funny quarantine videos again. That's when we were.
I might be in quarantine soon. Arizona. I'm in Tennessee right now, but
you're living
in Arizona.
California was in lockdown.
I know. Fingers crossed.
Oh well.
Yes. What?
And toes. All right. Have a good night. I said and toes.
Okay. Bye, Camille.
Bye, Sarah. Bye, everybody.
Bye, y'all. Should we say yeah. That's it. Okay.
Say what?
We're hanging up.